Good morning, everyone. My name is Cheryl Livingston. I'm the president of the Aransas County Historical Society. We have representatives from all the history groups here today. And I'd like to welcome you and say thanks for coming out for this kickoff event for this weekend and the activities for next week and beyond. We're co-sponsoring this event with the Rotary Club of Rockport, and one of their representatives will be up in a couple minutes. Is Jeff Coleman here? Here he comes.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say good morning to everybody. I just talked to our chairman from our club that we pretty much sold this out, so that worked really, really well. I'd like to introduce him. He's also Rockport Rotary past president and the chairman of this function for us, Steve Clarkson. Thank you, Steve. And all the other Rotarians of our club that volunteered to help him, they're here standing around everywhere. If you see one, just say thank you. And kind of looking forward to this week. I'm kind of a history buff, so I'm kind of looking forward to seeing everything. Thank you all for coming very much.
Speaking of seeing everything, if you have time or if you would like to make time, there's a lot of historic photos that cover the time period that we're talking about and a little bit later. So I know yesterday when we were setting up, some people that were here said, I had no idea that's what downtown Rockport used to look like. I'd like to have Judge Mills come forward for just a minute.
Well, this is the first time I've ever walked up and everybody was standing, so I'm not that kind of judge. I appreciate it though. Welcome to this great occasion. I mean, Mike Probst put in his paper that he's been here 25% of the time that Aransas County's been here. Well, I can top that. I can double that. But I've been here for almost half the time Aransas County's been here. So I think you can call me one of the old timers. And I see a few more. The Castellines are here, Morrisons are here, the rest of the Brundert family's over there. I'm a Mills, but I'm also a Brundert, by the way. But yeah, this is going to be a great couple of weeks. We're going to have a lot of fun, so let's get on with it. Thank you.
David Murrah is going to give an invocation.
My prayer is not the best part. Getting ready for the food or eating the food is the best part. Let's pray together. Our Father, we're so grateful for this opportunity to gather like this. We're grateful for the 150 years of the history of this county, and we are so grateful for those men and women who dedicated themselves to establish this community and the communities on the Live Oak Peninsula and the county. And we're thankful for their foresight in providing space for churches and for providing space for people that didn't have jobs, that they could come and work and live. And this morning we're thankful for the friends we have here that we've known for so many years. We're thankful for the families that have dedicated their lives to this county. And we're especially thankful for the food that you have provided. We ask these things in Jesus' name, amen. It's time to eat. Do you want to give instructions on that?
Good morning, everybody. We do have a little bit of a program that we're going to present. So you can certainly keep getting food, coffee, whatever you'd like. We have a lot of food. Be happy for you to enjoy. As Jeff mentioned earlier, we sold out our 120 tickets, and we think that people really read 9 to 10:30 as a drop-in possibility. So that's our best guess is why we still have a few empty seats around. But we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here early. Hope you enjoyed the food that was put together for us by Tracy from Pop's Tavern. I know I'm feeling really full. So I'm Pam Stranahan, and Betty Stiles is the co-chair for this event that we're really kicking off for the third time. We've kicked it off at least 3 times, but when you're trying to get everybody's attention, you have to use that kind of language. So here we go with the kickoff for the next 2 weekends, and we're glad you're here for this startup.
Hi, I'm Betty Stiles, and I am the chairman of the Aransas County Historical Commission, and also co-chair with Pam on this venture that we've taken on. It's our 150th birthday. I think we ought to applaud that. Some of our sponsors, I'd just like to really briefly tell you who they are. Ace Hardware, Adelaide and John Marlott, Brooks Shearer, Charlie Marshall Funeral Home and Crematory, Charter Bank, CJ and Susan Wax, David and Ann Murrah, David Picton, Dee and Suzanne McClellan, Derrick Construction, Ernie and Ronnie Stovall, First Community Bank, Friends of Fulton Mansion, Griffith and Brundrett Surveying and Engineering, they're here, GSM Insurers, Helen Goldate, John and Debbie Jackson, Judge Richard Bianchi, who's here, Kay Sparks, Pat Russo, Patricia and Pat and Patricia Rios, Phil and Elaine Albin, Prosperity Bank, Remax Security Real Estate, Richard and Joy Dias, Rockport Rockettes, and St. Peter's Episcopal Church, just to name a few. We do thank our sponsors. We could have not put this week-long celebration together without the help of our sponsors. We thank you very much.
Really, this whole event, this whole sequence of events has come together because we have some very active partners. They're not all here this morning, but they're out there doing the different pieces that we put together that you've probably seen on the Sesquicentennial calendar. So I would like to read those partners. These people have all had an active part in what we're doing. Aransas County, the Aransas County Independent School District, the Aransas County Historical Commission, the Aransas County Historical Society, who, by the way, put up all of the pictures that you see around, really pictures from the calendar that you probably have bought from year to year. The Aransas County Navigation District, the Aransas County Women's Lions Club, Aransas Pathways, the Bay Education Center, Charter Bank, the Children's Coalition of Aransas County that will have a part of the fair this afternoon, Connie Hager Cottage Sanctuary, the Fulton Mansion State Historic Site, the Fulton Volunteer Fire Department, which we really thank for the use of this building and their grounds today. This has been a great venue for us all. So let's have a hand for, I believe there are a couple of firemen here. The fear is always that they're going to get a call right in the middle of it, right? So when we dedicated the historical marker here, we were doing a talk about the history of this wonderful group, and all of a sudden everybody's beeper went off and half the audience left. So we're hoping that doesn't happen this morning. Harbor Carts helped us when we were doing our stroll around the town. The History Center for Aransas County has a great new exhibit up for you to see. Lamar Cemetery Association is going to have a tour of the Lamar Cemetery tomorrow. Lions Club of Rockport is helping us this afternoon. Rockport Fulton Tour of Historic Homes will be on the ticket tomorrow. Be sure and go from 4 to 6 to see 4 homes that were here before we were even a county. Rockport Cemetery will also be open tomorrow from 2 to 4 with people talking about the different monuments that you'll be able to see out there. The Rockport Center for the Arts is having a history-oriented exhibit with people who have been there, artists, for the art festival, which of course is coming up in July. The Cultural Arts District is having jazz on next weekend. And then the Rockport Little Theater we're going to get to experience in just a little bit. The Rockport Volunteer Fire Department, Rockport Yacht Club is having a wonderful regatta next weekend for 2 days, sailboats out in the bay, just like it used to be. So be sure to drop by and see what's going on with that. Rockport Fulton Chamber of Commerce have done much of our publicity. So thank you to Diane and Sandy and her crew over at the Chamber of Commerce. Rockport Rotary Club, you know from this morning, South Rockport Neighbors is putting together the parade, and that is next Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. The AgriLife had an old-fashioned county fair judging yesterday, and those items will be brought out for the county fair that we're going to have starting at noon today. They had a youth division, which is really wonderful, and an adult division with cookies, cakes, flowers, plants, all of the things that you would want to see at a county fair, minus the chickens and cows and sheep and things like that. The Maritime Museum has been involved with us too, Town of Fulton, and Tropical Smoothie is also helping with the parade next weekend. I'm not going to read these out to you, but please look and see the Centennial Committee. The last item on your program here. All of these people have been very patient in meeting with us monthly for almost a year now, and we really thank all of those committee people that have been diligent in helping us decide what to do, when and where, and then carrying it out. So all of these people have been very active in what they've done for our sesquicentennial. Let's give them all a hand too. At this time, I'd like to call to the podium, which we don't quite have, to the microphone, Dr. David Murrah, who is the newsletter editor for the Historical Society, but he has put together, I'm sure, a very interesting talk. I'm looking forward to hearing about it, about the founders of Aransas County. So please welcome David.
Thank you, Pam. If you would take your program and turn to the inside of it. Today we honor and celebrate the founders of Aransas County, and I invite you to follow along on the inside pages as we recognize those individuals that the histories of this area have identified as our founders. And as the text reads, the Sesquicentennial celebrates the 150th anniversary of the creation of Aransas County in 1871. Originally a part of Refugio County, Aransas County came into being after the new towns of Rockport and Fulton grew rapidly after the Civil War with the development of the cattle shipping and meat packing facilities on the Live Oak Peninsula. Well, that sort of says it all, but there are key words here that I want to emphasize today to kind of give you an idea of why Aransas County came into existence, because in a sense there was no reason for it to come into existence at all because it was a part of Refugio County. Three key words here: cattle, Civil War, and then we'll add to that water. Had it not been for these three entities, Aransas County might not ever come into existence, or certainly not as early as 1871. First, let's talk about cattle. Cattle ranching in the area began long before the creation of the county, and when the war with Mexico started in 1846, cattle became a major commodity that was needed to feed the armies. One of the designated founders that we honor today is John H. Wood. He's one of those who supplied cattle to Zachary Taylor's army from his ranches that he had at that time at Edna and at San Patricio. And of course, Wood went on later to establish the vast Bonnie View Ranch, which you can still drive through to this day, north of Copano Bay. And then he built his home at present-day Bayside, not the mansion that's there today, but he enlarged in 1875 that mansion, that house, to the mansion that still stands over on in Bayside. Well, another pioneer family of cattle people in this area were the Colemans. Young's Coleman and his son Thomas. They had moved to San Patricio County in the early 1850s and established their headquarters near present-day Taft. And they ranched cattle over thousands of acres, including all of the Live Oak Peninsula where we are today. Well, in an effort to broaden their market, Thomas Coleman drove herds overland from here to Chicago in the late 1850s. Now, this was 20 years before the opening of the Chisholm Trail. You know, modern history talks about cattle trailing, but it's all post-Civil War. Thomas Coleman was a real pioneer in trail driving and drove cattle to Chicago in 1857, 58, and 59. But about the time that the region then was beginning to prosper from cattle, along came the Civil War. So our second point. But the Civil War did three things to help the future of Aransas County. First of all, these longhorn cattle herds, they were neglected during the war by their owners because the owners went off to fight in the war. So cattle, though, continued to multiply. Longhorn are a very hardy breed, and they can live in the wild very easily. And so they just continued to multiply, especially here on the Live Oak Peninsula, because it's ideal country for longhorns. It had both grass, and it had fresh water in the creeks, and then had plenty of brush in which to hide. Secondly, the Civil War changed the appetite of the nation from pork to beef. For the most part, both the Union and Confederate armies survived on beef because beef was much easier to herd and move and to supply the armies. And so after the war, the soldiers returning home wanted beef rather than pork, and so the price of cattle then skyrocketed. So by the late 1860s, a steer, which you could buy in Texas for $5, would sell in Chicago for more than $40. Of course, the problem was getting it from here to Chicago. The third thing that the Civil War did for the future of Aransas County was to bring destruction to the major shipping point that the area had. During the war, the Union Navy had attacked the wharves and warehouses at St. Mary's, which, as you probably know, is located across Copano Bay, just north of present-day Bayside. Well, that move, the destruction of the wharves, forced the founders of St. Mary's to look into relocating its once prosperous port. Who were the founders of St. Mary's? Well, three of our designated founders we're talking about today. John H. Wood, that we've talked about, his son Richard Wood, and Joseph Smith. They had partnered in developing those wharves and warehouses at St. Mary's, but the destruction was very discouraging to them, and finally Joseph Smith was convinced to look elsewhere. Joseph Smith, of course, was part of the Henry Smith family. He was a nephew of Henry Smith, and you remember Henry Smith was the first American governor of Texas in the 1830s before the Revolution, and of course helped to start the Revolution himself, and he had a daughter named Harriet, and so Harriet ends up marrying George Fulton, and so it all begins to tie together. Joseph Smith was then a cousin to Harriet Smith. Well, the combination of the interest now of the Woods, Joseph Smith, and then the Fultons would have a great impact on the history and development of Rockport and Fulton. Well, the third key word here is water. After the Civil War and the rise of the demand for Texas beef, cattlemen sought better ways to get their cattle to eastern markets. Some did choose to drive cattle 800 miles up the Chisholm Trail to the railroad in Kansas, that opened up in 1867. But it obviously was a long and dangerous journey, and it took you straight across Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. If you want to follow that route, it's Interstate 35 to this day, but in those days, it wasn't quite that smooth. But our founders, which include John and Richard Wood, along with another founder, James Doughty, decided to develop a water route to ship their cattle, and they needed a new port. So for their harbor, they chose the site of the Rocky Point, which was a ledge extending out into the bay just east of present downtown. And there they built shipping pens and a wharf. They were then joined in that venture by two more of our founders, merchants Thomas and J.M. Mathis, who were two cousins that saw the great opportunity that was developing here. The Mathises secured steamship services by which live cattle and beef products could be shipped by steamer to New Orleans and beyond. They also joined with Dowdy in creating and surveying the town site of Rockport, what was then being called Rockport. And then John Mathis built one of the first homes in Rockport in 1868, which is still standing at 621 South Church Street and is still owned by the Mathis family. Thomas Mathis became the town's first mayor in 1870. Then John and Richard Wood, in partnership with Joseph Smith, laid out the Smith and Wood subdivision, which is North Rockport, in 1868. And Richard Wood then also built one of the first houses in Rockport, which still stands at 203 Magnolia. I believe that's Ann Jeff Hunt's house. Meanwhile, amidst all this activity, George and Harriet Fulton decided to return to the Live Oak Peninsula in 1867 to manage Harriet's extensive land holdings that she had inherited from her father, Henry Smith. With the outbreak of the war in Mexico, the couple had moved to Ohio in 1846, but then they came back in 1867. They laid out the town site of Fulton. But they didn't know anything about the cattle business and soon wisely joined with those that did. And so we have this tie of nearly every one of our founders now together because they joined with the Colemans and the Fultons in creating the Coleman-Fulton-Mathis Pasture Company, which was a vast operation, became one of the largest fence operations in the state, covering more than 200,000 acres and extended 40 miles west of Rockport, almost to Sinton. The company also built an 1,100-foot wharf out into Aransas Bay in order to allow deeper draft boats to dock. By this time, Rockport and Fulton had grown to include more than 1,000 people. Well, I want to mention that water played one other key role in Aransas County's history. Not just the water that surrounds us, but it's the water underneath. Unlike St. Mary's or Old Covino, where fresh groundwater was not available, the Live Oak Peninsula had plenty of fresh water underneath the layers of sand, which in turn helped create more jobs related to the cattle industry. It helped to create the nearly a dozen packing plants that opened up. Soon Rockport and Fulton were full of people working in cattle herding, construction, salt manufacture, road building, and shipping. There were also innkeepers, saloon keepers, gamblers, and prostitutes. Dozens of workers, and the international community probably camped among the live oak trees, obtaining much of their food from the discarded meat. One early arrival offered a very poignant description of this eclectic population. And I quote, "There were waterfront characters, frontier merchants, booted and spurred pistoleros from the brush country, cattle barons, working cowboys, and uprooted farmers and tradesmen from the states of the South." So, as I mentioned, there were about 1,000 people, and in effect, these 1,000 people become your founders. They were here before the creation of the county, and they are those that this fellow just described. I do have to mention, you know, the Brundretts were here before any of them. We have several generations of Brundretts here today. I think, though, the Brundretts were pirates living over on
Still are.
Still are. It's kind of funny to talk about these founders and not mention the Brundretts because that family has been here, I think, Jerry, since the 1840s.
Well, I'm fifth generation on the Brundrett and sixth on the Smith Stevenson. So, anyway, I
Yeah,
claim
right.
six.
Well, what happened, these 1,000 people have become our founders, and their presence is in effect what made the creation of the county possible. Because with this population, Rockport had enough clout to go after the Refugio County seat, and it jumped into the existing fight that was going on then between St. Mary's and Refugio. Because back in 1869, the legislature had designated that St. Mary's was going to be the new county seat of Refugio County. They were going to move the county seat from Refugio to St. Mary's. However, the records were never moved, and thus when the legislature prepared to meet in 1871, residents of St. Mary's petitioned the government to ratify St. Mary's as a legitimate county seat. But then citizens of Rockport, as well as El Copano, also petitioned the legislature to have their towns named as the county seat. Well, Rockport rightly argued that it had more than half the population of the county, and it had become the area's business center. And back in Refugio, the old Irish settlers there did not take the county seat fight very seriously. They thought they would just get it back, and so they failed to oppose the move. And so on March 15, 1871, 150 years ago, this past March, the legislature designated Rockport as the county seat of, not Aransas, but of Refugio County. And when the county records were moved from Refugio to Rockport, the old Irish settlers of Refugio finally decided to fight to get the county seat back. So that summer, a lot of discussion took place, and fortunately, a compromise led during that summer, just exactly 150 years ago. They created a compromise which divided the county, with the backcountry remaining in Refugio County and the coastal area becoming the new Aransas County. In September of 1871, the Texas legislature approved the division, redesignating the town of Refugio as the county seat of Refugio County and Rockport as the county seat of the new Aransas County. Well, I'm sure both sides celebrated the approval. We have a record that in Refugio's celebration, an old Irish settler reportedly jumped up on a table and proclaimed, "Faith and bejabbers and the damn Yankees got all the water there was in the county, and begobs it is me that hopes they'll all drown them damn selves in it." Well, what fascinates me about this statement is the reference to damn Yankees. My dad told me he was a grown man before he realized that the word damn Yankees was actually two words and not one. It was so commonly used when he was a kid in the early 1900s. For the most part, the founders we've talked about were not Yankees. Certainly not the Woods, the Colemans, the Mathises, Dowdys, nor the Smiths. They had all, I think nearly all, participated in the Civil War on the Confederate side. But George Fulton could be called a damn Yankee. He was born in Philadelphia. However, he came to Texas in 1836, fighting the Revolution, became an officer in the Republic of Texas Army, became Customs Director of the Customs House at Aransas City on the north end of the Live Oak Peninsula. But in 1846, with the outbreak of the war, the Mexican War, he moved his family to Ohio and eventually became a civil engineer there and helped to build the major bridge across the Ohio from Kentucky into Cincinnati. But Harriet grew homesick for Texas and convinced him to return in 1867. Undoubtedly, the Fultons were the ones the old Irishman had in mind when he used the term damn Yankees, and it indeed is a credit to the influence wielded by George and Harriet Fulton. So Refugio got the land and we got the water. But it's interesting to note that also, although Refugio County encompasses 3 times the amount of land than does Aransas County, property values today in Aransas County are twice as much as they are for Refugio County. So I think we came out ahead, in spite of an occasional hurricane, living here by the beautiful sea. And speaking of the beautiful sea, we have some very special entertainment along that line for you by the Rockport Little Theater. Thank you very much.
By the sea, by the sea, by the beautiful.
What you doing?
Katie, you are the worst sister ever.
No, I'm not. You love me. I'm the best sister ever.
I was practicing my song for the barbershop quartet performance for the 45th anniversary of Aransas County.
Fine. Carry on.
Are you just gonna stare at me like some crock?
I'm not a crock. I'm a glamorous beauty, like in the pictures. Nana said so.
Well, I think Nana's getting on in years. Now scat! By the sea, by the... Go away.
This isn't the Sesquicentennial, because it's only 1916. And teacher says the Sesquicentennial is in 1926.
That's the United States Sesquicentennial, 1776 to 1926. A sesquicentennial is 150 years.
It is? When's ours?
Aransas County?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are you too dumb to figure it out?
No, you aren't.
Not me, you.
Okay, goofus. Aransas County Sesquicentennial will be in add 100, subtract 5, the year 2021.
Wow. Are you sure? Because you might be dumber than Rufus. And he's a dog.
Yes, I'm sure it'll be in 2021. Say, I'm way smarter than Rufus.
Wow. We could all be living on the moon by then. We could be moon men and girls, maidens, moon maidens.
Go away, Katie, this instant, shoo!
You think they'll do something fancy for the Sesquicentennial? Like when Santa comes on the boat in the bay with all the lights on it? Or when they have those fancy dances at the fishing resorts and the fancy ladies promenade around in their fancy hats?
Yes, Katie, I'm sure it will be very fancy.
When moon people?
If I say yes, will you go take a long walk off a short pier?
Really, Joe? What do you think they'll do?
I don't know. If they're like us, they'll have a big festival with a fair. And maybe people will dress up like us. And they'll have a barbershop quartet. And they'll sing to the people coming out of the shops. Maybe they'll sing and dance and talk about Aransas County's history in Rockport and Fulton.
That sure sounds nice. Wish I could go.
You'll be older than Nana by then. Now hightail it out of here so I can practice my song in peace.
First, you sing my song.
You sing your own song.
I'm too shy.
You're shy? Since when?
Please, just start. I'll jump in.
Then will you leave?
Yes, I promise.
Okay, jump in. Katie Casey was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad. Just to root for the hometown grew every Sioux. Katie knew. On a Saturday, her young beau called to see if she'd like to go to see a show, but Miss Kate said no.
I'll tell you what you can do.
Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Katie Casey saw all the games, knew the players by their first names, told the umpire he was wrong all along, good and strong. When the score was just 2-2-2, Katie Casey knew what to do. Just to cheer up the boys she knew, she made the gang sing this song. Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, let me root 2021.
What's her catch?
I don't know. She's a prune and a sluffer.
I don't know, Joe. A prune might be a bit harsh. She's not that peculiar.
Well, she's a sluffer then. She spends all day with her head in the clouds. She thinks it's the Sesquicentennial. It is not.
What? How'd that happen?
I don't know. Maybe her brain cells aren't properly aligned.
Wasn't she supposed to go with us to the fair?
Oh, sassafras and tarnation! Katie, get back here!
They might both be prunes.
Oh, stop that, you. All right, let's go over our part of the Aransas County history.
Okay, you start.
Did you know that Aransas County has always been a rich oasis full of farmland, fish, and wildlife? Since prehistoric times, our county has been inhabited by those who enjoy our mostly tranquil weather.
Ancient people have lived off the land on our shores and fished our waters since the beginning of time. Think about that. We're walking on the same sand as people throughout time.
Oh, it's like we're time travelers and H.G. Wells is the time machine. Oh, imagine huge sailing ships, French and Spanish, right off our coast. Oh, that must have been a sight to see.
Yes, but the Spanish and French weren't interested in the beauty of our shores. They were hunting for gold.
We don't have any of that.
Nope.
But it is possible that Cabeza de Vaca himself may have shipwrecked off our coast. No one knows for sure.
We do know for sure that the first Spanish fort was built in the 1700s at Live Oak Peninsula.
Oh, that's just at the very north edge of Fulton, right where you have to cross the bay to get to Lamar.
It sure is. That fort, ports, and mission was named Aransas, after a beautiful palace in Spain and Our Lady of Aransas.
Aransas was later derived to be Aransas, and that's how we became Aransas County.
Aransas became Aransas City with the post office and customs office.
Oh, wait a minute, you're skipping ahead. Okay, so first, the Mexican government didn't want any more settlers along the Texas coastline. But then, in 1828, an Irishman by the name of James Power, he negotiated a contract with the Mexican government to allow more settlers to move to Aransas. The Mexican government agreed, and, well, they felt that they would be a good influence in the area because they were Catholic.
Right. That's when James Power renamed the settlement Aransas City. Although eventually, after so many attacks from Mexico, Native Americans, and the battles throughout the Texas Revolution, Mayor Lamar put the post office and customs across the bay to Lamar.
Aransas City became a ghost town.
Then, in 1845, Texas became the 28th state to join the United States of America.
That's a fact. In 1845, Zachary Taylor, a general in the United States Army, sailed from New Orleans with his troops, readying for the Mexican-American War. The first land he saw in Texas was San Jose Island.
And he chose that very spot to erect the very first United States flag in its newest state. The first American flag flown ever in the state of Texas was right here, at San Jose Island.
In the summertime of 1845.
In the good old summertime.
In the good old summertime, in the good old summertime, strolling through the shady lanes with your baby mine.
You hold her hand and she holds yours, and that's a very good sign that she's your Tootsie Wootsie in the good old summertime. We're waiting for Joe and Katie.
Well, y'all better hurry up now because the train's about to reach the depot and there'll be people everywhere.
Oh my goodness.
I think I see them, arguing way over there. Let's go round them up.
We'll see you at the
See y'all
pavilion.
later.
Aren't they precious? So young and pretty.
Well, Yummy, you're still young, but I'm still pretty.
You're so sweet, but I'm prettier.
Prettier than ever.
Oh, and you're still such a charmer.
Well, you know, it takes a talent.
Look at all the beautiful people headed to the pavilion. Don't we live in a beautiful town?
We really do. You know, it's hard to believe that about a few years back in the past, that bay out there was filled with cattle carcasses.
What?
It's true. Right after the War of the States, the cattle industry grew up here real fierce, and there were cattle coming through by the thousands through Aransas County.
But I know that. But why were there carcasses in the bay?
Well, you know, those cattle barons like the Coleman, Mathis, and Fulton Cattle Pasture Company, they helped build Aransas County from a small fishing village all the way up into a busy marketplace.
But why did they throw the carcasses in the bay?
Well, I think it's supply and demand. You know, the slaughterhouses, they had more demand for the tallow and the hides than they did for the meat. Originally, they'd send out those cattle on the hoof, you know, send them down to the port, put them on a ship, and send them everywhere. Then they realized that basically it was more cost effective to just ship the tallow and the hides.
I'm so glad that practice has ended. Imagine how horrible it is to have all those carcasses in the bay.
Well, the turtles liked it. Well, honey, don't forget that those cattle are the reason why Aransas County has its depot and its pavilion and just about everything else.
I realize it is the very foundation of Aransas County. Why, Mrs. Mathis, who attends the weekly women's club, she's very involved in the community.
Wasn't her, that's her walking down the pier right now toward the pavilion? Is that her in the big blue hat?
Why, yes it is. She's so fancy. Look at all the beautiful people. We really do live in an extraordinary town.
You know, with all the modern conveniences of 1916.
And that promenade on the pavilion is a brilliant piece of work. And all the people that come into the resorts from everywhere in Texas.
Yeah, let's not forget those cattle and oil barons. They need to be accommodated too.
We are so popular. Oh, look, I think I see Geneva and Lane on the pier.
Where?
Right down there, midway down the pier on the way to the pavilion. Oh, look at the couples arm in arm. They're so romantic.
Honey, don't you worry. You know, we still have a spark in our heart.
Oh, my.
Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me true. Keep the love light glowing in your eyes so true. Let me call you sweetheart. I'm in love with you. We still got it. All right, man.
We're here, finally at the beach.
After a crowded train ride from San Antonio.
Look at the water. Oh, look at the seagulls. Golly, look at the sand.
Look at the suffragettes with signs. They mean business.
I heard several of them chatting. They came over here all the way from a convention in Corpus to have lunch.
Oh, well, good for them. I hope they, get to vote.
Listen to you, modern man of 1916. Oh, look at the pavilion.
It says they have shows, symphonies, and other performances in the pavilion.
Oh, probably not today, though. Look at all the banners. They're celebrating their county's 45th year anniversary.
So Aransas County was founded in 1871.
Wow, that was some quick arithmetic.
Thank you, but it says so right here in the brochure.
Cheeky. I want to see everything. The pavilion, the parade, the fair. And there's a soda fountain downtown. We need to go there for lunch.
Slow down there, Snickerdoodle. We only have 10 hours before the last train ride to San Antonio.
Well, that's plenty of time. I want to see all of it. Come on, let's go.
Hold your horses, ma'am. We've got a lot to see here. We have 4 luxury resorts to visit. Look, this one has a shuffleboard.
Oh, so modern. That's just invented in
1913 in Florida. I've never seen it. I want to play shuffleboard.
Okay, we'll do that then. Oh, and look here. This hotel, the La Playa, looks so dreamy. And it was just built 4 years ago. Let's have dinner here.
They have a bathing house pavilion too? I brought my swimming suit.
Me too. I checked it with the fellow at the train station. We can go pick it up after lunch.
Look, they're celebrating and honoring all the people at the Founders Day celebration. Most of them have cows. Mr. and Mrs. Mathis, but he passed away. Mr. Richard Wood, he has cows too. And he's the mayor.
And there's Mr. Simon B. Sorensen. It says he owns the Sorensen Mercantile and Chandlery. He puts out the weather flags.
And this gentleman, Victor Frederick Brach, he's from Germany.
You think?
Yes. And he was the postmaster and customs inspector. His children have several stores in town.
What else?
A lot of things. But here come the suffragettes with their signs, and I don't want to catch the wrong end of their Vote for Women signs.
They probably won't hurt you much.
Come on, let's go do everything by the sea.
No, I do like to be beside the seaside.
I do like to be beside the sea. I do like to stroll upon the prom, where the brass bands play till the bum. So just let me be beside the seaside. I'll be beside myself with glee. And lots of girls beside. I should like to be beside the seaside, beside the sea.
By the sea,
By the sea,
by the beautiful sea,
you and me,
oh
how happy we'll be.
when each wave comes a-rolling in,
We will duck or swim,
and we'll float and fool around the water,
over and under.
and then up for it.
Pa is rich,
Ma's rich,
so now what do we care?
I'd like to be beside your side,
Beside the sea,
beside the seaside,
by the beautiful sea.
Remember to participate in things this weekend, which are going to be a fair starting at noon right out here. Tomorrow we'll have cemetery tours and a view of the houses that are here in Rockport. Next weekend, the parade, and several other things will be going on. So please join us in celebrating this 150 years.
Yes, and I was reminded right before we got together this morning that people like Bobby Jackson and probably the young Brundretts back there like to mark their calendars for upcoming events. So in the year 2071, we'll have together, and I think I see the chair and co-chair sitting right back there. Thanks so much for coming. Thank you.